spiritual laws of prosperity. So today we are going to do the concluding part of the spiritual laws of prosperity. Remember, yesterday we were able to give a deep understanding and also thorough and comprehensive knowledge on the spiritual laws of prosperity, which we talk about the law of total submission, and also we talk about the law of tithing. We dive deep into the issue of tithing, and also we talk about the law of seed time and harvest, and then we talk about different kind of principles that is embedded in the law of seed time and harvest. We talk about offering, vows, prophet offering, and the rest. So today we are going to do the concluding part of uh, spiritual laws of prosperity, because spiritual laws are applicable to everyone, especially to the believer, and we are going to have that deep understanding of that. And also, as we have an adherence to follow laws applicable to spiritual prosperity, these are the extensions of it, what we can engage the kingdom, and then God give uh, account to, and God will give rewards to as well. So this is the extension and concluding part of that one. And the reason why this one is not tied to it is because it is engaged uh that it is engaged directly. Remember, the law of total submission, the law of tithing, the law of seed and harvest can be engaged by anyone, but this one has to be engaged basically by Christians alone. Basically by Christians alone. So let's get started. The first spiritual law of prosperity we have here is upright living. Upright living. Upright living. One of the ways that God makes sure He blesses you and prosper you is upright living. Um, God instructed Abraham to walk before Him and be blameless. If you check the book of Genesis, chapter 17, verse 1 to 2, God told Abraham, walk before me and be blameless. And Abraham in return will be greatly multiplied if he obey. So the reason why God told Abraham to walk before him and be blameless is because upright living before God is one of the criterion to make sure that you walk in prosperity. Prosperity in God's perspective, it is not uh, isolated. It is a derivative of your intimacy with God, your uprightness, and your walk with God. That is why prosperity is so different for any other thing. Because if you don't have any walk with God, you are not going to have that prosperity with Him. Let's take a few people that actually walk uprightly before God. The first one I have here is Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat. He lived according to the ways of David. He did not follow the ways of other king of Israel who worship Baal, and he had abundance of riches. If you check, I don't have to do much scripture because of I don't want this video to be much elongated. But if you check the book of Second Chronicles chapter 17, verse 3 to 6, if you want to write it down, Second Chronicles chapter 17, verse 3 to 6, you will see the account of the life of Jehoshaphat. There are many kings that the chronicle gives us. There are chronicles of many kings there, but many of them, let's say from Rehoboam downward, many of them they walk against the law of God. If I want to count down to Malachi, the king that actually walk upright before God, let's say maybe Jehoshaphat, Josiah, Hezekiah, and few, very few, very few. And I think Amaziah, no, I think Uzziah, I think few of them, very handful of them, but majority of them they walk wickedly. Especially the kings in Israel, they walk against the law of God. They go against the order of Jeroboam, their father, the order of Ahab. So many of them walk, but because this king walked uprightly before God, he became prosperous. He became rich, Another person that walked uprightly before God, that God make prosper, is Joseph. We already know the history and the life of Joseph. Yes, we know from his father's house, he's being hated. His brother sold him as a slave to Egypt. Then there he make another problem. He refused to sin against God when he was tempted with his boss wife. If you check the book of Genesis chapter 39, verse 6 to 10, 11, there what you will see. And on the long run, God elevated him to rule over a rich nation when there was a testimony of famine everywhere in the world. So fast forward for the 3 chapters later, in Genesis chapter 41, verse 39 to 43, you see the account there. Even from 41, from chapter 1 to the last verse, you will see that the account. And the reason why Joseph actually became that was because of upright living before God. He refused to sin. Now, if he agreed to sleep with his boss wife, nobody will actually know. Nobody will actually know, and he will still be there for life. You see that now. But because he understands his work with God, and he knows that his own work with God goes beyond just pleasure. So he refused that pleasure. And you think maybe because he refused that pleasure, God will elevate immediately. He was reduced back to prison. The Bible says that when Jesus was in prison, he prospers because God was with him. And remember, I told you when I was dealing with the concept of prosperity. In that concept, I told us that prosperity is securing the face of God. Because many times, if you want to secure in life with just money, you are a poor person. You are a very poor person. If all you want to work for is paper, you'll be poor. Especially this day that we live in, where everything, the world economy is turning upside, everybody is just lamenting and complaining. You'll be poor. You'll be very, very poor. Because there are situations whereby you will not be able to salvage until or unless you actually um until and unless you what they call it now, you have the face of God over your life. So Joseph became another person there. Another person that walked upright before God is Job. Yes, Job. We already know the account of Job. Job was a man who was known both to God and all men for his uprightness. If you check the book of Job, chapter 1, verse 1 to 3, 4, 5, 6, thereof, you see, and he was greatly blessed for it. The Bible says Job gave a brief insight on how he lived when things were going well with him. And for us to comprehend it, it made us understand that he did not just become blessed overnight. If you check the book of Job, chapter 29, verse 1 to 6, he did many things. He walked uprightly. He even offered sacrifice for his children when they made the feast, lest the baby accused God in their heart. He was so upright before God. Though he faced challenges, and on the long run, God rewarded him for his steadfastness, also in uprightness, and it was greater than his initial attack. Suffer from the devil. God will return it. By the time you read the book of Job, chapter 42, verse 12 to 13, you will see there that uh, Job was actually rewarded. Everything he lost came back to him in multiple fold because he stood in uprightness. Because the bargain between Satan and God over the life of Job was to sin against him. So Satan thought that Job will actually bend, and he challenged God that it's not because you have blessed him, that's why he is loyal to you. And God says, no, this one is loyal to me, whether blessings or not. And they put Job's life as a test, actually. And at the end of the day, Job actually became God's favorite. And even when his wife tempted him to curse God and die, he told his wife that you are part of the foolish women thereof. You are part of those foolish women that we ever know. Because can you accept good from God and also accept the bad ones? See that now. So, and because of his uprightness, he stood his ground, and then he became blessed even more than his initial life, more than his former one. His latter days was actually became more prosperous. You see that now. So law of prosperity refers that you must walk upright before God. You can't be walking in sin, doing anyhow, taking your hand in dubious things, and expect God to bless you. Paul says, can we continue in sin and say grace may abound? It's not possible. It's not possible. Many believers joke around with sin. We joke around with the work of Christ on the cross. We do anything with that salvation gift, and then we are expecting God to bless us. How? The salvation gift we receive for free. As you have you actually used it well? No, because the only way you can respond well to salvation is uprightness. And when you are not working upright before God, something's wrong. See that now. So you must know that uprightness is actually a spiritual law that everybody must engage, especially a Christian. That's why the way you're going to seek money as a Christian is totally different. And I always say it, the way I'm going to seek money as a Christian is our view is different. It's not the way people are preaching it even now. It's not the way we are going about it in the world. Our way is different from the ways of the world. And this is the thing that many Christians don't want to hear. That's why they love preachers that we preach, that we lie to them, collect their money, do all kind of things. End of the day, they begin to cry that all men of God are the same. That's the problem. So the second thing is the second spiritual law is giving to the poor. Now, this one is synonymous to almsgiving, and also it is also part of the spiritual law. You must learn to give to the poor. Let's check the book of Deuteronomy chapter 15, verse 6 to 8. Deuteronomy chapter 15, verse 6 to 8. The Bible says, for the Lord your God will bless you, just as he promised you. You shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow. You shall reign over many nations, but they shall not reign over you. If there is among you a poor man of your brethren within any of the gate in your land, which the Lord your God is giving you, you shall not harden your heart or shut your hand from your poor brother, but you shall open your hand wide to him and willingly let him to sufficient for his need, whatever he needs. That is, God mandated it to the children of Israel that if any poor person is among you, you must give to him sufficient for his need, and whatever he needs, you must give. Give to the poor. Giving to the poor and the less privileged is part of the fundamental doctrine of giving in the Christian faith. We all know that giving to the poor is the fundamental doctrine of Christian faith. In fact, one of the things you are going to learn mostly in the world out there, or even in Christendom, is giving. Although giving have different parts, but we still know we want to learn how to give accurately. We can also observe the life of Job from the text described below. That is Job chapter 29, verse 12 to 16, on what he did for those who are helpless and less privileged around him. Job said, I used to give people who are less privileged, people who are not having enough money, people who are not rich, people who are not both naturally buoyant. Job says, I always help them. Giving to the poor is a spiritual law. Now, many people, they don't they have not learned how to give accurately. That's number one. Number two, I found out that many people, either accurately or not, they don't have the heart of giving. They don't. If you check our Christian life today, if you check our Christian faith, if you check everything we do today, you will see there that many people don't know how to give, or they don't, and many people don't have the art of giving. I think people that don't have the art of giving are much more than people who don't know how to give. Because if you have the art of giving along the line, God Himself will teach you how to give accurately. But because people don't have the heart to give, you say, I just today, we start from offering. People really pay offering, tithe. People really pay tithe. It was in the mouth of Miles Morrow I first heard that only 20 to 50% of the church pays tithe. Only 15 3% of the church pay tithe. When I first heard that thing, I was like, what this man saying, it can't be true. But on the other hand, I began to look at where he has been in ministry, maybe he has experience. But when I started the work of the Lord and I began to run the ministry, I found that it was true. In fact, the percentage he quoted was even more higher. In fact, less than 10% actually pay tithe in the church. So people don't pay. People don't pay. So, and when I was learning finance and I was trying to read his book and then try to listen to one of his audios, I found out that he said something very profound and said, if you want to run your ministry or your church on tithe and offering, you are making a bigger mistake because you will be short of resources that God has to help you out and give you strategy on how to run the ministry without debt or without borrowing or without compromising your integrity for money or anything. No, that reality first dawned on me. I felt shocked because I have a open heart to learn, especially for people that have gone ahead of me. And when they're saying something, it used to baffle me like, wow, if these people could be saying this kind of thing, then I have to take them very seriously because they have gone ahead, they have seen this thing before I do. And when I jumped into ministry, started, I found that everything they said was actually true. The ministry is actually beyond tithe and offering because people don't actually give it. No matter how much you want to say, people will not give. And one thing is that when you now want to use force and gimmicks, you are going to compromise yourself and corrupt your priesthood. So the best thing just have to ask God for another route, and that will now be a sure thing that God actually call you, because if God call you, He will give you another ways by which uh you can actually uh finance the ministry without any effort, because if God calls you, He has to finance it. If He doesn't, that's why I always say people that if God does not finance what I'm doing, I will quit. I will quit. It's a sign that He did not call me, because there is no soldier that go to the war at his own expense. That's why I see people when they begin to struggle and the struggle become too much. Now there is a stage whereby struggle will come. Maybe at the initial stage where as you are growing, I understand that things are not go well and then people are not, but some struggle are too extreme. Very extreme. That I will tell people, sit down, go and ask God again. Did you actually call me? And if you say yes, ask Him, how will this thing be financed? Because if you don't ask, you are going to compromise yourself. You are going to lose your ministry, lose yourself, and you will not become a Christian anymore. See that now. So people don't have the heart to give. Only few does. Only few does. So we must learn to give to the poor as a principle. As a principle. Also, Cornelius also was reported to give alms generously. If you read the book of Acts chapter 10, verse 1 to 2, you see that Cornelius give alms. He actually give alms. He was not a poor man. And Bible also assures that the person who gives to the poor will not lack. If you read the book of Proverbs chapter 28, verse 37, Bible says, anyone who gives to the poor shall not lack. You can't lack. So you must learn how to give and give diligently. If you withhold your hand, you are withholding the blessing of God. But if you stretch out your hand, you are actually stretching your hand, and God will keep blessing you. So a stingy man who withhold his or her hand will never have God abundant, because it's true that nothing will come in, but nothing will also go out. Nothing will go out, and also nothing will come in. And that's how God works. God wants to see you as a conduit, whereby this can enter your hand, it can go out, enter your hand, it can go out, and the more you go out, the more abundant it comes. If one go out, God will replace you with two. So if two go out, God replace you with four. If God go out, God replace you with 8. If 8 go out, God will be 16. If 16 go out, God will be 32. See that now. If 32 go out, God will be 64. And God does not replace what go out. He has to multiply it. That's why people increase in abundance, they increase in grace, they increase in privilege, they increase in anointing, they increase in in prosperity because they know how to give. God sees them as a conduit. See that now, as a conduit. Also, the third one is caring for ministers. Another third law that we can engage is people who cares for ministers, and there are a lot of classical examples for that. Um, in the church today, we actually take note of that. We work on it, and some people are actually doing it very well. Some people actually take it as a ministry to take care of God ministers. Take care of God ministers. Let's check some reference in the Bible. There's a woman called Lydia, a purple seller, in the book of Acts chapter 16, verse 14. Bible says she gives to the poor, also she take care of ministers. This we can also do, and it also provide divine favor in our lives and beyond imagination. We must learn how to take care of minister. Take care of minister. Also, there is a woman in the Bible called Dorcas. It was on the account of his alms giving that actually prompted the heart of the apostle to even say, this woman deserves to die, because when she died, everybody was crying, bringing out the gift that Dorcas and Peter gave to them. But when that thing touched Peter, he said, okay, no. This lady deserves to live, not to die. So they had to pray and raise her up from the dead. See that now. So caring for ministers. Another classic example is the Shunammite woman, who will have at least expect her that the testimony will come through her care for Elisha, who also in 7 years later be the door opener of the restoration of her property. If you check the book of 2 Kings chapter 7, chapter 8, chapter 9, thereabout, you will see the story of this Shunammite woman. Now, let me just paraphrase because I don't want to read long scripture. This woman is barren. Then Elisha and Gehazi, his servant, they only uh pass through what they call it now, the road in front of the house when they were going, coming back, they're going, coming back. So this woman repeatedly saw Elijah and Gehazi that these people are people of God. One day he called them and said, okay, I actually used to travel around this place. Okay, we are traveling, you can lodge in, there's a room for you, there's a place for you can wash your feet, eat everything. So this woman began to take care of Elisha and the servant. Then one day Elisha said, what can we do to this woman that will take care of us every time we pass through here? They said, this woman is barren. Barren, go and call her. Say, by this time, by this time next year, I'm going to have a baby. The woman will not even believe it. But one thing about it is that you have gift to a prophet. You must receive a prophet reward. So whether you believe it or not, that's your problem. But as far as Elisha is concerned, he has proclaimed a blessing, and it has to come to pass. And actually have the baby. Eventually the baby actually died along the way. They still come back and wake the baby up. You see that now? And he have the barrenness dried because she took care of the ministers of God. You see that now? Your care for minister of God is an act of honoring the grace of God upon their lives. So when you take care of minister of God, it just is an act of honoring the grace of God upon their lives, and it provokes divine blessings and supernatural turnaround on things that seem not to work. Anytime people take care of God's anointed, there's always a blessing that follows. I've never seen anyone in the Bible, even till now, that take care of man of God that they don't have blessings. I never see one. It's a spiritual law, because the people you are taking care of are not just men themselves. They are God's anointed. You are taking care of God's grace over their life. You are taking care of God's uh, God's treasure in them. You are taking care of everything that God has deposited in them. So that thing that you carry has to respond to your need. It has to respond to your need. See that now. Also, the Sarifite woman also hearkens to the voice of Elijah, and she experienced abundance during the time of famine and drought of Israel. This woman is in debt, her husband abroad. And you know one thing about God, I found out. Every day for which Elijah story was that this woman asked this last meal, her last meal to just eat and her son to go and die. But Elijah said, okay, do my own first. You know, sometimes it look cruel at this ritual law that you heard me right. I told you that I want you to eat this last meal and die because there's no other food to eat again. And you said I should do your own first. But the woman obliged and did it. But because I can feel the woman's pain that, okay, whether this meal or not, I'm still going to die anyway. But because of a prophet of God, and in Israel, they have the habit of honoring a prophet of God. So she has to do that own first. So it's just like, okay, this is the last meal. If I eat this meal, I'm going to die. If I don't eat this meal, I'm going to die. So no problem. Whether I eat this meal or not, I'm going to die anyway. So he obliged and did Elijah's own. And then he asked him, what do you have? He said, I have a jar of oil. Okay, go and borrow more vessels. The woman borrowed and borrowed. He closed the door. And the oil began to multiply. Bible says, and when the vessel was finished, the oil stayed. That means the oil has ability to even produce more. But it's when the oil finished, he said he sell the oil, free herself from debt, and leave off the remaining. Abundance, wealth came to that woman in that minute at the point whereby there's no hope for her. So if you check that story in the book of First King chapter 17, you read from verse 8 to 16 thereabout, you're going to see that story that this woman actually does not actually have any hope. But the only hope he has at that moment, the only hope that shows to her at that time is the hope of a man who showed up and she honored the grace of God on his life. See that now. So sometimes in some churches or denominations, that habit is fast depleting. And you see some denominations, some churches, that habit is still upheld. Now there are a lot of problem around this. Some men of God has come and they have bastardized, they have turned that as a act of milking people's money, because people have a bit of men of God begin to demand beyond what they should. And as a man of God, it is not a office, it is not a avenue to demand. It is people by their own volition that they choose to honor you, whatsoever capacity they have to do for you. So some men of God begin to demand. So they need to have some godlike mentality around it. See that now. So and also some uh, some Christians have seen it as a way to punish men of God. I've seen many churches whereby they say that if you don't give men of God, you will die of hunger. See that now. But they have forgotten that God calls him, man. Except let the whole church go against him, except God will not call him. As far as God is coming, God will feed him. God has to feed him. God has to. It is a common thing, and it is a necessary thing that God has to do. God has to feed any man he called. If he doesn't feed them, then does not call them. Because a calling man of God is like calling them to the order of Levitical priesthood. Sometimes God call man, does not give them anything to eat. And don't give them any chance to work rather. But they have to feed them, feed their family, feed their offspring. So the major uh, things that happens when we actually care for minister of God, as God returns the blessing. God sees the honor, and honored your contribution over there. So caring for ministers is actually part of spiritual laws. It was observed mostly very well in the Bible, and even to this day, people are still doing it, and there's a reward that comes to it. That is so. Caring for ministers is the third law that we must engage, and we must learn how to give. We must learn how to give to ministers of God. We must learn how to give to ministers of God. We have to learn it. It's very, very important. The fourth uh, principal principles here is diligence. One of the principles of spiritual laws of authority is diligence. Diligence is part of what God wanted to do, God what meant to do. Diligence. Diligence. Isaac, along with all his servants, did not stop digging wells. If you check the life of Isaac very well, you will see a life of diligence, a life of continual work, a life of really hard work. Even though the people of the land were against him, he still sought and worked diligently. You see that now. If you check the book of Genesis chapter 26 from verse 12 down to 25 thereabout, Bible says he continued digging the well until they experienced a reward, while they strove not with them. That means Isaac have already dug like 2 or 3 wells before uh he eats Rehoboth. And the plans of diligent people leads to plenty. You check the book of Proverbs chapter 10 verse 4 and Proverbs 21 verse 5. He said people who lives who play diligence will always lead to plenty. You see, diligence and hard work are actually, or let me use that way, diligence and hard work in righteousness always provoke special attention from God, and God always reward a diligent hand. Let me tell you, one of the problems I have found out in Christendom today is the problem of diligence. Many people are lazy, very lazy, sometimes extremely lazy. What we see the mouth of average Christian is just, let me even generally, is what I'm going to see in them generally is just um, sometimes what does he just plan? They have written plan, they have written goal, but action is lacking. Action is lacking. And the reason why I found out that this thing happens every time was because I see that people are not hungry enough, or sometimes people have options. Sometimes when you have options, you not see how much of trouble you have, or you have people who can cover up for your responsibility. People are not responsible, but they have someone who can cover up for that. So they believe that, well, they can misbehave and still get away with it. See that now. So I see that when you gather 100 youth, you will hardly see 10 or 20 that are diligent. All other one, they are just freelancing, hoping that one day God will change the situation around. And that is why people are in church today praying and fasting, but you not work. Bible says a faith without work is dead. You can't exercise your faith, believing in God, praying fast, and you not work. It is what you work that God want to bless. Sometimes one of the things that I see in Christian that we have an habit of not being responsible for our lives. So we have a way to push the responsibility back to God, as though it's God are going to do everything for us. Once you start a restaurant, you started praying. Okay, good. You have prayed. Fine. That's the best thing to do. Then after prayer, step out. Step out. Do some things. You are praying for customers. Customers will come and meet you in your room. You are going to meet you where you are staying. You work hard, you diligent, you go after people. That's how they will begin to have favor without them. Sometimes I found out that years ago, when I began to pray for favor, I found that sometimes favor only works when you engage people. Sometimes it's not that people just start somewhere and somebody will just come from one place to another and begin to no. Sometimes you need to engage people. You need to put a call through, send a mail, send a text message, do post online. If you do ads, do ads. There is somebody that God will make sure that you see that thing that will reach out to you. Sometimes when we don't take action, we are robbing ourselves for many things. You don't engage anything, you don't post, you don't do anything, nobody know what you are doing. You're not diligent, you're not well doing, and you want to provoke prosperity. It doesn't work that way. See that now. And we live in a world whereby we are too many, and we the attention span is very, very weak. So right now, if you want to command people attention right now, uh, you're going to do a lot of job. So everybody just busy doing one or two things. Those are for people that don't know what they are doing as well. Everybody is just busy doing one or two things, and for you to get their attention, you have to be diligent. Sometimes it's not failure that defines you; is who you are that defines you. Diligence has a way to I found that diligence has a way to even make you weary failure until it paves way for success for your life. People don't know that one of the things I found out in many unbelievers is that they have a way to weary down failure. Failure is not something they agree on. They don't agree with failure. They keep working on it until it works. That is why when you hear their success story, you're going to hear many stories of rejection and failure and a lot of problems that they've encountered and they overcome setback upon setbacks. Then they came back again or they actually break through. See that now. But ask many believers, all they try one things one times, two times, here they go. There are many companies that we know now that they spend 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years before they had their first profit. Imagine doing a business for 7, 8, 7, 10 years without profit, you are at loss and you still keep doing it. And these companies today have become multinational companies around the world that I know. One of them is Amazon. Amazon filed its first profit in the 11th year or 10 years or so. You see that now? So people don't know that sometimes when you weary failure, it has to, and when by the time failure gives way, it becomes a global success. It becomes a global success. Global success. So I found that many people are not diligent at all. That is why sometimes many people they engage does not actually work for them, and it will not work for them because they are not diligent. So one of the spiritual law for people that you must engage is a law of diligence. You have to diligence. Also, the fifth one there is faithfulness in dealing with others. Faithfulness in dealing with other people. You see, uh let me give you a story of Jacob and Laban. Jacob served Laban faithfully with all his might, in spite of Laban's inconsistency in dealing with Jacob. He also served with accountability and integrity. But God in turn rewarded Jacob. Though he came to Laban's house empty-handed, he left with a lot of things, and God gave him his own cattle as a reward, and he later had servants attending to him. The story of Laban and Jacob from Genesis chapter 31 from verse 6 down to 39, 40 thereabout. You will see that uh, the story of Jacob and Laban is an intriguing story because Jacob served Laban, but Laban supplanted him. Laban treated him unfairly. See that now. Jacob, Jacob served Laban for 14 years for a wife, for the younger sister. Laban exchanged it for your older sister. You see that now? So you have to serve him again for another 14 years. I think for 14 years for the wife that you actually loved. You see that now that the life of people who actually tread people unfaithful is not their end is always bad. And by the time God will now deal with Laban, is when they want to share the stock. And Laban choose one that are not spotted, Jacob choose one that are spotted, grizzly. And then suddenly Jacob's flock began to increase. Laban's flock was decreasing. You see that now? And they didn't know that all those things that happened because of the hand of God. Because God was about to punish the house of Laban. And this is a life of many believers as well. You are selling, you are doing one or two things, you are engaging in one of these trade, and then you begin to supplant people, you begin to cheat people, you begin to uh, deal unfair people. Let me tell you what you're doing. That wealth you are trying to gather, you are still going to leave it at the end of your life. Number one. Number two, that wealth will not last because you are doing a lot of dubious things. You are not faithful in dealing with other people at all. You see, I've gone to market. Sometimes people cheat people with uh, unworthy scale, unworthy balance, unworthy. People do a lot of things in the market, and I look at them and say, okay, now the people you are cheating now, they don't know that you cheating them, but you not still go beyond where you are. You will not. This where you will be selling this kind of thing till you die. God will not increase you because you cheat people a lot. How about people that you work for them, they cheated you, collect your money? I've worked with people that whereby sometimes they will collect your money and they will swallow it, and then they will tell you that the money will not come out. I've worked with people years ago whereby you work for this money and then they delay the money, and later after the money came out and this person collected our money and spent it, and he still telling you that the money has not come out. Until years later, we actually found out that they actually paid him. So people do a lot of things. How about those that they work for you for certain amounts, you agree with them. After they now finish the work, you need to reduce their pay. They did not do the work very well to their extent. And I know somebody years ago that when you work for him, I've agreed pay. We agreed. But what the style he always do is that he always pull his thought of the work was not good. So that he will not pay up to what he agreed. And he used to do that thing for everybody that work with him. So people have already known him. At the time, we need to avoid him. So he has to go to another state to go and bring people that work for him. See that now. And he still deal shrewd with them as well. People work for you, you now say what they did for you, you don't like the job is not good, blah 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 blah. So therefore you can't pay them because they did not do the job to agreeable taste and what they agree on. Whereas the job is good, but you always find something to condemn that are not able to pay. And people like that. And one thing about that, what they do for you will not still last. It will not, because you are unfaithful in dealing with others. And that's how many Christians who operate. That's what they do. People, you have to deal with people, you supplanted them, you cheat them, you behave like a fraud because you want to have money. No, if you want people to treat you well, you know how to treat others. Especially some people also they they give you job, you are stealing their goods. They say you should stay at this shop for them or uh, manage this company for them. You begin to steal their goods. It's unfaithfulness. Faithfulness in financial dealings is what that you must deal with people faithfully with money. Otherwise, No more will commit to your hands truths of the kingdom. If you check Luke chapter 16, verse 11, he said, who will commit to your hand? He said, when you are faithful, when you're not faithful to others, who will not commit to your hand the true riches of the kingdom? That means before God will commit your hand your own riches, you first test with other person and watch how you're going to do it. You have somebody show up, you are standing there as a sales agent, you are stealing their goods, you are dealing anyhow. One day, you're going to have your own shop, you're going to do it with you as well. You are in a place, you are the one that supervises the things, and then things need to go down, and then you feel nonchalant. No problem. They're going to deal with you too in the same coin. That's how it works. Everywhere, that's how it works. So we must have faithfulness in dealing with others, so that God too will see us that okay, this one is faithful, that I can commit to his hand riches of the kingdom. But unfortunately, many of people are not faithful. Many people are not faithful at all. They are not. They are not. They are not. That's why God sees them that uh, they are not actually qualified to have their own. And if they have their own, actually, people will pay them to their own coin. So that now, even in church, when you are not faithful in serving God, God does not see you as a candidate that can actually do big things for Him. You can't. I always say that a man who is not faithful in serving God will not be faithful in serving men. Because if you can't serve men, God that you cannot see, how much more? How much more? How much more? That's why a diligent worker in church will be diligent also at work. It is the same energy. The same energy. It's not because money is involved. Same energy. And if you say you don't want to become, you don't want to be faithful in Christ or diligent in church, no problem. God will make sure that He puts your feed, your feeding, your earning in a very tight place. So the bow it come bow to God, you now bow to man 20 times. You see, that's why people cry when they treat them badly in the world out there, because you don't know how to even treat God in a good terms. You treat His work with levity, and so people have to treat you badly. They have to. They have to. They have to. So you must be faithful in dealing with others. You must be faithful in other people's own, so that God will see you as a qualified candidate to what have His own word enterprise. Also, the last one here is empowerment. 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 In this kingdom, your wealth is the people you empower. One of the spiritual laws you must always engage is law of empowerment. Your wealth is the people you empowered. If you are running to be better than everyone every time, you will not rise. I always say things about commonwealth, commonwealth, commonwealth. Commonwealth simply means that as you rise, you empower others to rise. So that they will become a safe net for you if anything happens to you on the way as you are rising. Because if you want to rise alone, you are going, number one, you're not able to rise alone. Number two, even if you did by any sort of means, you're going to become a casualty to yourself, because by the time you are coming down, nobody will be able to stretch their hand towards you and say, okay, let's receive you and throw him back to where it's coming from, because you are just going alone by yourself. But empower others and you'll be successful. One of the ways to become successful easily is that you empower people, and those people in return to will what they will return back the energy back to you. We multiply and increase in the kingdom by empowering others to do the same we did, helping people to grow and maximize their potential, capacity building, accurate knowledge and guidance. These principles are the part of spiritual laws of prosperity that many did not practice or they are not even aware of. This principle is part of spiritual laws of prosperity that people are not aware of. Empowerment. Empowerment. One of the things I've found out in many people is that they don't know how to empower others. They just feel like if I'm going alone, That's all. Especially ministry, business, or anything you set up that you regard people to work with you. You must empower them. Now, there are tendencies that when you empower people, people misbehave. People feel like they can stay on their own. People feel like uh, now I can do my own the way I wanted it. It's fine. People will always do like that. But you still know that the quality of men around you will determine the quality of what will happen in what you are doing. When you are empowering people, always have a back of your mind that if you empower 20 people, let's say 5 or 7 will misbehave. Have it. You have to learn to put man in the place of man. That when it comes to man, man has tendencies, they have flaws. Some of them will misbehave, but that should not stop you because if it stop you, that means you have not yet learned. Number two, you have not don't have human resource capacity because there's no way you want to help people that some of them will not rebel. So you have to put the percentage already on ground that 20 people, no matter how good they are and loyal to you now, forget about it. The time will come, some your trusted people will say they're not doing anymore, you have to go. So you have to create room for them and let them leave. Then you stay up again and raise other people to fill the gap and have access. And that's how you keep going. Because you don't do that without when you say you want to quit, not empower people anymore because they betray you, the quality of hand that will raise you will be weak, very weak. So you for your rising, you need a very uh strong hand to manage things around you for your rising. So life is not about only you just going alone. So people too must grow with you. They have to grow with you. So men have tendencies, men have flaws. So you have to put a system on ground to deal with that. A system of punishment number one for anybody who rebel, and a system of replacing them as they rebel. Even in God's case, God has a way to replace people when they misbehave. So it's not a new thing. So you just put a system on ground that as this person move or anybody moves, this person step in. No long talk, no story. You leave, somebody step immediately. So that one will safeguard you and you keep making until you get stabilized. So maximizing people by empowerment is the greatest way to create and increase wealth. If you want to create wealth, you need a community. I always say it, we call them commonwealth, the community. Not because all of them have become successful or all of them have become uh, rich. No. But in that little capacity, in a collective contribution, they can form an alliance, they can form a batch, they can form a a company. Is that all correct? Or a group of people, like a community that can help each other. I will say that if you have 10 friends and each 10 have grown to the elders, they can give 100,000. For example, now that means in the day you need 1 million, you have people that can actually give it to you. Not because all of them have 1 million each, but they have something that they can contribute that benefit your need at that particular time. It's called commonwealth. It's called community, and those things are very great and powerful. So your wealth is in the people. Your wealth is in people's growth and empowerment. Your wealth is in the people you empower and grow with. Your wealth is in the people's growth and empowerment. So you must learn that people's growth and empowerment is part of the ways you are going to grow too. And that's why we have community of many poor people, because everybody is striving to rise alone. That's why we die in the struggle, and the cycle repeats until one day a generation will be wise enough and sit down. It's okay. Let's form a community, and that is the basis of society, community, a group of people, associations, uh, corporate society now. At least yes, corporate society, yes. Uh, the list is endless. They come together. It's a formation of people that come together. Okay, say all of us are not wealthy, but we can make ourselves wealthy. That's the idea. All of us are not wealthy, but if we give ourselves time, by collective effort, we can become wealthy. It's called we call cooperative society. Cooperative society. People who cooperate together to form a community that can help each other to grow. So they engage in all kind of business, all kind of loans, grants, contributions that helps everyone to grow. And they do this easily. And before you know it, everybody life begins to improve. It begins to improve. It begins to improve. It begins to improve till everybody becomes stable. And sometimes they begin to bring in few people to join them, and they go together as well. So the cooperative society is actually one of the society that we must learn and we must grow with as God help us. So commonwealth is the wealth of the believer, and it helps everyone to grow as God is helping us. So these are the 6 laws of prosperity that complement the one we shared in the last video. But in the next video, we're going to share about the 7 natural laws of prosperity. That's going to be a very long video, a very long video, and then I pray that God will help us. So the we have treated the spiritual part of the laws of prosperity, and our next video we are going to treat the natural part, the natural laws of prosperity. And I believe that we are value for time. Let me give us a recap one more time. You must learn how to live upright. Number 2, you must learn to give to the poor. Number 3, you must learn to care for ministers. Number 4, you must learn to be diligent. Number 5, you must learn to be faithful in living with others. God is watching you. You must learn to be faithful in dealing with others. And number 6, you must learn to empower people as well. Let it be part of your principle. Part of the law you must engage. Don't rise alone. Learn to empower others. And at the end of the day, you are going to have a blessing and a community that is blessed by God. But the next time I come your way, do well to comment, like, subscribe, and share whatever it is you have learned. And next time I come your way, we are going to treat the 7 natural laws of prosperity. Thank you for joining us. Have a nice day. Bye bye for now.